Do you struggle with control? Do you struggle with trying to manipulate God's plan in your life? Do you struggle with fear? People that struggle with control and fear, I used to live in fear. I used to live in control. I wouldn't let go of the reins. Everything, I had to have my hand in everything. I had to know about the income. I had to know about the finance. I had to know about this and that. I had to be a part of everything because at the end of the day, I didn't trust God. And as God removes control from his daughters, he will strip you. He stripped me of everything. He took my career. He took my job. He took my marriage. He took everything away that I was trying to control because I was so afraid I wasn't enough. And so all these lies he had to break down until my identity was fully rooted in him and him alone. And as he brought me back up, knowing the truth about who I am, knowing that I am accepted, I am loved, I am enough, right? I don't need to control anything because God is in control of my life, and I feel safe knowing that. We should feel safe knowing that God is in control of our life, not try to question him. Think about Eve in the garden. She was questioning if what God said was truth or if he was not telling her everything, right? And the enemy used those things to lure Eve to eat the fruit. And it's sad because since then, I believe that women, we struggle with that. It says in the word, we're going to struggle with control. So we have to really learn how to, as soon as you feel like you're getting tense, as soon as you feel like you need to be in control, that's why you're opening your mouth. What is the motivation for why you're saying that to your husband? What is the motivation for why you're doing that to your spouse? It usually is because of fear, and fear always partners with control. If you're afraid, you're going to want to hold on to that control because you don't trust that God has your back. And all of these things is how manipulation, and it's crazy. Like people that struggle with that, I used to love gossiping. I used to love, it's kind of like a cauldron, stirring the pot, right? You hear that all the time, like, she's stirring the pot like a cauldron, like it was witchcraft. I used to operate in witchcraft, not even knowing it, because I was so bitter and so resentful. And I had so much unforgiveness in myself, towards myself, that I hadn't forgiven myself. I lacked identity in Christ. I lacked receiving Jesus dying on the cross and having my salvation, being fully in that, right? And so I used to be around people like that. I would attract people like that. And so kind of like we talked about on virtual group coaching last night, who are the people you're around? What type of spiritual battles are they facing? Usually who you're around, you're attracting because of something that could be in you. And so as God was healing my heart, even my friends and the circle of friends that I had changed. I didn't want to sit there and gossip about people and talk behind people's back. That wasn't fun to me. I didn't want to sit there complaining about how my life was this and my life was that. That wasn't fun to me. I didn't want to do any of that. That was exhausting to me. And so that's how I could tell God was changing things and transforming things in me, because I no longer wanted to be in that type of situation. I no longer wanted to complain. I started trusting that, I started taking back what I took for granted is really what it was. I took my marriage for granted. I took being a wife for granted. I took being a mother for granted. I took being God's daughter for granted. And as I started realizing all of that was stripped and all I had was God in my life, it humbled me. And it helped me realize I took being married for granted. And so he started showing me my heart, the things that I would say. I was contentious, I was controlling, I was manipulative. I didn't want to submit to my husband. I didn't want to trust my husband, and my flesh would keep justifying why I couldn't trust my husband. So I'd stay in control. And all of that just kept me in bondage. When you struggle with the spirit of control, you'll struggle with migraines, back pain, shoulder pain, the stiffness. You're stubborn, you'll deal with rebellion. You won't want to submit to God. You will try to, and like your flesh will justify why you can't trust God. No, we're going to keep that 9-to-5 job because, that's in case God doesn't come through. It's like an in case situation, right? In case God doesn't heal this, in case God doesn't do this, I still am in control of this. That just keeps you in bondage. And so as God pulled all that away from me, he really showed me and redeemed being a wife. And so I no longer became a vessel for Jezebel to use. And so I hope this encourages you guys. This isn't about guilt, shame, condemnation, beating you up. It's about helping you identify Are you a vessel for Jezebel to use? Do you struggle with control? Do you struggle with fear? Do you have a desire to submit to God?